I'm Mike Griffin. I've been in the safe business now 25 years. I'm going to try to answer some of the most commonly asked questions that I receive concerning gun safes. Now, what we have here is the typical gun type safe. This one was attacked with two burglars using a pickaxe. They worked on this till they gave up and quit, never got it open. A pickaxe is a fairly common tool to see a gun safe attacked with. What happens is the thief breaks in the house, finds the safe, goes out and burglarizes the homeowner's storage building, brings whatever tools he thinks will open the safe back in the house. And so fairly regularly I see gun safes attacked with a pickaxe. Of course, these two thieves, they just made this safe hard to open for us. They were no closer to opening it when they started than when they finished. Now, this is what I call a typical bolt work system on your lower price range safes. You have live bolts on one side. Now, when you're buying a gun safe, what you're really paying for is what's in the door. The money in building a gun safe, most of the money in the cost goes in building the door. The most common attack I see on gun type safes is to prise on the door. The thieves want to open the door so they get everything out of the safe. When they're prising on the door, they're actually pulling the door bolts up against the back of the frame. I've never seen a bolt bent. What bends is the carry bar that the bolts ride on. What happens when you have a prize attack is this carrier bar bends. I haven't seen any burglar strong enough to bend the bolt itself. This is a very difficult attack, but this is a weak point with low-end type gun safes. Now, I like to put everything in scale. In the 25 years I've been doing this, I've only had 2 of the lower-end safes successfully prized open. So for the price, that's a real good security level for around the $700 or $800 range. Now, what we have here is a better bolt work system. This is a more expensive safe, what I would call a middle-of-the-line gun type safe. This safe, we have 3-way live bolts. The carrier bars are still here, and the top bolt. And the 25 years I've been doing this, I haven't seen a top bolt make any security difference that I could tell in an actual burglar attack, but they look good. But as far as I can tell, they've never done any real burglary difference. But what does make a big difference is live bolts on 2 sides. That increases the security level greatly. I have never had this security system or above systems ever successfully prized open. Now, what we have here is a Griffin 23. I designed these safes from scratch. Entirely new bolt work system. This system was designed to stop the 3 main attacks I've seen burglars do in 25 years. This carrier bar will not bend. It rides on the bolts. You have steel to protect you all the way across. Even if it were possible to bend the middle of the door, the bolts are designed for these tubes to catch. Also, this system is designed that if the burglar tries to remove the entire lock, if you remove the entire lock with grinder or drill or whatever tools they may use, it breaks this cable. The cable is randomly placed in each door. This cable controls 2 what we refer to as external relockers. The relockers fire in the bottom area in the door. So this is one of the very few gun type safes that the safe would still be locked if they managed to remove the lock entirely. Now, I want to show you what this lock will do. This lock is commonly purchased at big box stores, mass merchants. They can dress up these dials to where they look better, but this is the one thing that they can't hide. If a dial turns smoothly, and you reach down and turn the handle, and the dial binds, this is a $2 lock. This lock, not very secure at all. If you'll notice here, this is a nicer looking dial. Turn the handle at the same time, the dial freezes. This is another $2 lock. Now, the $2 locks are one thing, but in order to sell these cheap, they've removed the hardened steel that protects the locks. Hardened steel should be located here. The external relocker should be located here. It's also been removed. This safe commonly sells for around $400 at the mass merchants. Now, I buy these and we replace everything that's missing, the hardened steel, the relockers, and replace this with a $200 lock. And we sell this safe for $475. But it is a blemish safe, but it's also a much upgraded safe. Well worth $475. Without the hardened steel and the relockers, this I would call a gun cabinet, not a gun safe. Now, this is what we refer to as the $2 lock looks like when it's removed from the safe. You can tell that it's not much expense involved here. It is hard to compete with this lock when we use Sergeant Greenleaf locks that sell for $200. This quality lock. Internal relocker, 3 wheels, driver, excellent quality lock. Now, many people come here and they want to know about the fire protection and gun type safes. I tell them I don't really go by what any of the stickers say. So I've been opening safes for over 20 years after houses burn. I tell people what I see after the fire. When I go open that safe, that's the best description of what we're going to have of what you really have fire-wise. It's been my experience that if the house burns to the ground with any gun type safe, the contents is most likely not going to survive. I have yet to see the contents survive when a house burns to the ground. Now, on the other hand, when a house burns, what I would call the average fire we go to, most of the structure still stands. With any of the brands of better type gun safes that have, I'd say, a good 30 minutes worth of fire rating, the contents will survive. And I like to show people a picture of the house, then a picture of the contents. When I drive up to a house after a fire, I can tell by looking at the house what the contents in the safe is going to look like in gun type safes with fire rated sheetrock as liner. Now, this is fire rated sheetrock. This is what nearly all gun safe manufacturers use. What happens is when the house burns, this sheetrock generates steam from the moisture in it. You have fire protection in the safe as long as you have moisture in the sheetrock. It's been my experience that if a house burns to the ground, I haven't seen enough fire-rated sheetrock that you could put in there that it won't cure out. Now, don't let me mislead you now. You're better off with the fire-rated sheetrock than without it. Most of the house fires we go to, if you hadn't had at least 30 minutes worth of this in there, you would have had massive damage, period. Now, of course, there's an exception to every rule. And when it comes to fire protection, you get real fire protection from a concrete line safe. When the concrete burns, it generates more moisture than sheetrock. Therefore, you have a lot longer burn time with the concrete line safe. This safe, for instance, is not a true gun safe. It is a burglar fire type safe redesigned tall enough for long guns. Now, this safe, for instance, the body is 2 10-gauge layers of steel with 1 inch of concrete poured in the middle. Much more moisture in the concrete than sheetrock. Now, the doors on these safes are even thicker. The front of this door is a 1/4 inch steel. You have 1 inch of concrete behind that, 1/8 of steel, a 1/2 inch of concrete, and another 1/8 of steel. Much better fire protection and much better burglar protection than a gun type safe. This is a burglar fire type safe. Much heavier than gun safes as well. A 23 cubic foot safe here weighs 1,060 pounds. But in order to get the fire protection, that's real fire protection, a concrete line safe will do it. Now, this safe, the bolts do not go all the way across like with the gun safes I designed. But this is a much beefier door and body. Most commercial safes, the door bolts do not extend all the way across because they don't need to. If the cold chisel won't bend the body or the door, then you can use shorter bolts. But we still protect the carrier bar from bending. What we do here is the bolts are long enough to have a brace here so that if the burglar prize is on the door, the carrier bar will not bend. This safe also, even if a burglar knows everything about this lock, if he cuts around this lock, it will break this glass. The glass fires an external relocker that can be located on any of the door bolts. Makes it much more difficult to burglarize this safe successfully. Now, this safe on the right, this is the back of an actual safe that was attacked by 2 burglars. This is the back we cut out of another actual burglar attack. They used a carbide tip skill saw and a sledgehammer on this safe. The safe on the right, they used a pickaxe and a splitting maul. I estimate it took at least 3 hours to make this hole here, and about an hour and a half to do this one. Of course, they had the power saw to help them. Both of those safes were not opened. The one on the right, they managed to get a couple of handguns and coins out of the gaping hole that it took 3 hours to make, but they got busted because they stayed too long working on the safe. Neighbor came home, saw a suspicious car in the neighbor's yard and called and turned them in, so they got busted. These two attacks, you can combine the time and the tools, and they still would not make a hole in the body of this burglar fire type safe. Much different animal than a gun type safe. Now, when it comes to safes designed for long guns, there's a lot of difference in the quality and price, especially with the locks, no hard steel protecting the locks. It's hard to know what you're buying unless you buy a safe from somebody who specializes in safes. If they can open, service, and repair if you have an emergency, then they know safes. I'd highly recommend that you buy a safe from the person who knows what they're selling.